Hi, my name is Noel Grandin. I do performance optimizing and improvements on LibreOffice, mostly on the desktop version of LibreOffice, but the changes typically apply to both. So my weapons of choice are a tool called Perf under Linux and a visualization tool made by the excellent KDAB people called Hotspot. Perf is a Brendan Craig thing built into Linux these days. Part of the kernel, generates awesome stack traces and things. And it has become a lot better in the last year or two. In the beginning, when I first started using this tool, it was prone to all sorts of weird behaviors where it would randomly decide it didn't know what the stacks were or what the debug symbols were and things like that. But in general, it's gotten a lot better. There's still occasional things that go a little bit weird because you got to ensure that you got a match between your kernel version and your perf tools versions and things like that. And occasionally the perf guys keep improving things, which occasionally breaks the perf tracing formats and things like that. But in general, it works pretty robustly. The only downside with perf is that it is a sampling profiler. What that means is that instead of like a Valgrind, running your application under a kind of virtual machine and then taking and counting cycles, it's less accurate. It samples stack traces by default 200 times a second, and then aggregates those stack traces into a display. This means that the upside is that I get really rapid feedback. So I've got a nice cycle time. I can make a change, run a test, and see the results all in under 3 or 4 minutes, as opposed to Valgrind, which easily takes me half an hour to get through a complete cycle. The downside is that you need enough samples. So typically I need a test case that runs for on a kind of without doing anything on a normal performance enhanced build, in other words, a release build. I need it to run typically between 10 seconds and 2 minutes. If I don't have a good test case that runs inside those timeframes, then I'm a little bit stuck. If it runs too short, you don't get enough samples. If it runs too long, well, then you kind of defeated the point of using perf. So you I often need to either cut down a test case, or in rare cases, I need to take a test case and loop it, or increase the size of the document, cut and paste it, those sorts of things to generate a big enough trace to make a useful result. Now, what you're looking at there is called a flame graph. This is the best thing that's happened to profiling in the last couple of decades. It is just so much easier to read. I spent my early career doing performance optimization stuff using trees of graphs and ASCII layouts and other visualizations which aren't even close. I'm not sure who came up with the flame graph stuff, but Brendan Craig popularized it, and it is just great. It gives you an intuitive view of where your time is being spent in your program, and in the implementation inside KDAB Hotspot, it's fully graphical. You can click inside it to zoom into chunks. You can filter on sections of your timeline, and the best part is you can right-click on a kind of little node there, one of those little blocks, and it'll open a text file with your source code, wherever that specific problem is happening. It's not perfect. The debug symbols are not always pointing at exactly the same right line of code. Occasionally inlining will mess up things a little bit, and you'll be looking at something kind of one node too high in your stack trace or one node too low. But in general, it gets you pretty close to where you want to be, and it's just great for quickly working up and down the stack, looking for information about where the performance is going and what's happening. And yeah, it's a fast tool, it's robust, and they deliver it in a lovely little app image package, which means you don't have to worry about getting all your dependencies right on your Linux box. So what have I been working on? Well, you know how they say that only 20% of an app is the useful stuff? Well, unfortunately, everybody uses a different 20%. So a lot of the bugs that I fixed in the beginning were kind of generically applicable. But now the performance I'm seeing is that people are having very specific niche use cases where they're using a particular slice of features that happen to interact badly. And then you end up with performance problems. And of course, there's the people who look at LibreOffice and go, well, of course, I can load 1 million lines of information into Calc, which is true, but it takes a long time and chews up a lot of memory. And so I trace all those sorts of things. So what have I been up to? Recently, I've been up to chasing print preview with an interesting combination of row styles and the recent large column widths thing that we have, where if you have a single row style in Calc, then the preview was taking on the order of 30 to 60 seconds to display, whereas previously it used to be under kind of 2 seconds. So I chewed that down and managed to get it down to under about 5 seconds. So that's where we are. And then I've been chewing at a bunch of other little bugs, and unfortunately, I haven't had any like huge wins. Maybe I think the one in the middle where DocX had one commit that had like a lovely, great, yes, this is the core of the problem, hammer it, and we're 10 times faster. But all the other ones were like chew away 1% here, chew away 2% there, chew away 3% there. And so you just got to keep slicing away at it and gradually get the times back down to reasonable numbers. Cool. Thank you.